So what do you do in the mornings when you get up, you got some caffeine?
Celsius. Yeah.
What is that?
It's an
Celsius?
Energy. Celsius.
Okay.
It's an energy. I guess that's how you pronounce it. I don't know, but it's good, and I sure like it. I used to do Spark, Advocare Spark. I've done a little bit of everything, but no coffee. Now, guys on my staff, they'll walk 3 miles in the sleet, rain, and snow to get coffee, so it must be something good to it. I know we have an O. Henry's here on our campus at Samford, so it's kind of all over the place here in Birmingham.
So what's been the aversion to it? That doesn't
Really
sound too good to you?
No, I just have never. I probably ought to try it.
It's a good thing you hadn't. Don't get started.
Yeah, but I do need caffeine, and usually a little bit of energy drink will do it to me. But I think I probably got enough things that I eat or whatever that putting into my body. I probably don't know if I need to add one more at this age for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely addicting. Are you a morning guy? Do you get up early, early?
I'm a morning guy. I really like the morning just to be by myself and have a chance to read and try to reflect. And I think when you reflect, there becomes this time of gratitude. I think gratitude's inevitable when you're reflecting, and just to feel like I try to get a lot of the heavy work done early in the morning. And that way the rest of my day kind of freed up. With people, I talk to our players about this. I think my thought is be really selfish with your time in the morning so you can be unselfish the rest of the day. And that way you have a chance to spend time with whoever needs it that day, or whatever task you may have. Somebody else outside of your world may need something.
Yeah. Now you're a reader. I mean, you've got all kinds of books in here, and I mean, I'm pretty sure that you're reading scripture in the morning. But also, what are some other materials?
Yeah, I do. I try to have a quiet time every morning. I'm not perfect. I'm a long way from it, but I sure try. And but honestly, in the morning, it's more me just catching up with the world, because once the day starts, I really don't have a lot of time to watch the news or whatever. So I'm probably, at this time of year, I'm starting to look at people's schedules, what's going on with other college basketball teams, getting ready for the season. And then also I just like to read anything that's professional development, self-help, things like that. But I just think, to me, reading's always been a big part of my life.
Yeah. And what about your staff? How do you kind of coach them about balancing their schedule throughout the day?
Yeah, I think every person's different, and I've got different stages in their life on our staff. My associate coach, Tyler Murray's married with 3 young children, and one of my other assistants is married with a newborn, and the rest of them are all single. So now they maybe have a girlfriend or significant other. So you kind of see a wide range, and everybody's kind of got their own routine. I'm not a big, you have to be in the office by this time and you can't leave at that time. My biggest thing is I want guys that get stuff done, and I do think it's hard to get stuff done if you don't manage your time. And I think sometimes you may have to say, we might want to be a little bit more intentional at this, that, or the other. But I do, for the morning for me is a big deal. I just think if you don't get your day off to a good start, you're kind of chasing it the rest of the way.
Do you kind of leave it open to your guys, just kind of make their own schedule? I remember there's a story about Gene Stallings, and he came in, late at night, or knew one of his assistants was working late, and it was like 7 o'clock at night, and he's like, "What are you doing here? You need to get home to your family." Yeah,
I said, you don't need to guard your desk. That your desk is not going anywhere. It's not going to score any points. You need to. Your first priority is your family, and it always will be. And so, most of the time we're here, pretty much everybody's here by 8:30 or 9 every morning. But when practice is over, we usually go home. It's not, we usually regroup the next morning. We try to meet staff meetings in the morning. Once the season gets going, 10 or 10:30. Out of the season, we meet every Monday. And so just to plan the week out. But I do tell them, I said, if your children have something going on, you need to be there, and I'll be really disappointed if I found out that you didn't tell me that was going on and you were here. I mean, really, I think the only reason you should miss something that's going on with your child, if you're an assistant coach, is if we have a game.
Right.
There's no do-overs. Life is not a dress rehearsal. You get one chance to raise your children, and then being there is so important. And the reality is, we're coaching basketball. We're not curing cancer. I mean, we can handle it.
Right.
And I'm blessed that, my wife and I were empty nesters now. We've raised 2 children, and they're on their own. Now, one of them actually works right down the hall here. He's one of my assistant coaches. But that being said, I know how valuable that time was for me. And that was always my thing. If I didn't have a game or I wasn't on a road trip, I was at whatever they had going on. If that meant we moved practice early in the morning or late at night, that's what we did.
This has got to be such an exciting time for you. I mean, this is your first year. We're in September. Y'all are about to get practice started. And so tell me about your mindset going into year one here at Samford.
Yeah, first off, I'm really thankful to be here. I think this is a special place with tremendous potential. I think it's I've really enjoyed Birmingham. I've lived in Huntsville the majority of my life, and then spent the last 6 years in Nashville, Tennessee, and so lived in some great cities, and have not spent a ton of time in Birmingham other than recruiting and just all the normal things that go with coaching in Alabama. But we actually just bought a home in Homewood and have really enjoyed the area. The people have been so inviting. But yeah, this is an exciting time. If you coach college basketball, there's a lot of anticipation. It's a different world now. We have no idea what we have. Somebody says, how's their team going to be? I said, I really don't know, and I'm not trying to sandbag or be disingenuous. I have no idea. I know we have really good kids, but it is exciting. But I think for me, I've tried to enjoy just the whole process and the try to get enjoying the rhythm of my life as a coach. I enjoy the summer. I enjoy being with our guys when it's a little bit less laid back and a little more laid back, and we can do camp, and then I enjoy time with my family, and then it's exciting when school starts because our campus really comes to life. There's not a lot of kids here in the summer. Well, now we have over 6,000 kids on campus, and there's people everywhere, and there's a good vibe, and that to me is as exciting as anything.
Yeah. Now, y'all have got a lot of new faces on the team this year. I mean, there were not a lot of returning, top scorers on this team, but tell us about some transfer guys that are coming in, and then some, new contributors.
Yeah, well, when I got here, actually today's September 9th. I don't know what's in this run, but April 9th, 5 months ago today, is when I accepted the job. So I could probably write a book on the last 5 months. The first 3 or 4 weeks it was amazing. I mean, I informed my team at Lipscomb that I was going to go to Samford, and I actually went right to the car and I drove down here, and it was a while before I went back to Nashville. I just had so much to do, but after meeting with all the players, I had the opportunity to come back. The majority of them already decided they were leaving, which was fine, so we only retained two. Zion Wilburn, will be a sophomore from California, and then Caleb Harrison, who will be a redshirt freshman. And so, we basically had to go out and get an entire team minus those two guys. I'm really thankful those two kids stayed. They're really awesome young men, and I'm excited about them. But we had to go out and we signed 11 new players. And so that's the world of college basketball now. And you can sit around and complain about it and moan and groan about it. It's not going to do any good. It's because it's not going to change. It's the world we live in. And now we actually had a staff meeting yesterday, and I hope that we're not having to do 11 new kids next year, but the reality is we're probably going to have to go get 6 or 7 new guys in the spring. That's just the way it is, but we're going to embrace it. But I do think we've done well in terms of, first off, I really like the kids. You and I were talking a little bit before the interview. I'm really a big believer in the character of the young men we have. We double down on character. We bet on character. And so I've really enjoyed them as people. I think they're great fits at Samford. And then I'm hopeful that we have enough talent, because at the end of the day, there's no secrets to this stuff. The secret is there is no secret. Mm-hmm. You get the very best players you can. They're high-level kids, and you fight like crazy to do the best you can.
And obviously the transfer portal is a reality now, and tell us about some of the transfer guys that you guys have got coming.
Yeah, we actually we had a little bit of low-hanging fruit in that we brought one of my players from Lipscomb, Dylan Faulkner, who's a very talented 6'9" inside player, who's first off a fantastic young man, and he decided to come with us. And then we brought 2 kids that had already committed, well, really 4 that had ties to Lipscomb. One had already signed with us, a young man named J.D. Gossett, who's from Huntsville, Alabama, was runner-up to Mr. Basketball in the state of Alabama. And I actually known J.D. since he was 4 or 5 years old. I coached his dad at Huntsville. And so he had signed with us at Lipscomb, and he decided to come to Samford. And then 2 other young men that had committed to us at Lipscomb, Keaton Norris and Justin Bornstad. Keaton's a transfer from Wright State, and Judson's a transfer from Union University. They decided to come, and kind of the residual of having Keaton is his brother was leaving Illinois State, Cade Norris, and he came with us. So, those guys are kind of guys that already had some inside Prater information with, so that's been good and helpful. And then Zach Lamey was another young man that played for us at Lipscomb that was a walk-on that he decided to come. And Zach's from Briarwood Christian here in Birmingham, and he's been a great addition to our team here at Samford, just like he was at Lipscomb. And then Dejon Humphrey is a transfer from Bowling Green that we actually played against a couple of years, and one of my assistants had recruited out of junior college, and he's come in and done a nice job for us. Cam Martin is a transfer from Long Beach State. Cam is a guy that can really score the ball. Started every game as a freshman in a really good league at Long Beach State, and we're really excited about what we think he brings to the table. And then we added Will Shaver late, who's a transfer from UAB. Will's a local young man here. He played at Oak Mountain. His dad played at Birmingham Southern and went to University of North Carolina out of high school. Then's been at UAB the last 2 years, and so we've been able to bring him into the fold. I don't think and there's Jackson Pollard. It was actually the first commitment we got. I'm trying in my mind to go through everybody. Jackson's a transfer from Queens University. We played against Jackson. Jackson had his career high against us in the conference tournament last year. He was in the same league as us. And then Jaden Booth is a transfer from Florida Southern, and he was probably one of the top Division II transfers in the country. He's somebody that we are extremely thankful to have here, and he's actually married. He and Jackson Pollard are both married, and so they have a little bit of maturity, a little bit of life experiences to them. But those are the guys that we brought in from outside our program, and we're excited about all of them.
Mm-hmm. Bucky left, such a big imprint on this school, and obviously he's moved on to Texas A&M and just did a great job as a head coach here. And so with some of those, returners particularly, I mean, how much attention do you give to, hey, this is a new system, and how much attention do you give to, moving that culture over, and do you try to instill your game plan from day one?
Well, I think first off, Bucky did an incredible job here. I have so much respect for him, and it's just from the time he's kind of an outlier since he was at Mountain Brook, and to come here with never coached in college, and his first job be a Division I head coach, and to have the success he had was just amazing. And I'm not surprised, and I think he'll do really well at Texas A&M. With that being said, I made it very clear to our athletic director Martin Newton, our president Dr. Taylor, that I wasn't going to try to be Bucky. I had to be me, and I had to. Now, I do think success leaves footprints, and I have to be intentional in trying to figure out, how did he get this done, and what can we marry to how I want to play versus how he played. But he did an incredible job. But in some ways, it's probably easier that there's not a lot of guys back, because sometimes when you take over a program, if they've had a lot of success and there are a lot of guys back, they may fight you on some things that, hey, this worked before, why aren't we doing it this way? And so it's kind of a fresh start and a reset for all of us. And so that's been good. Our guys have been great, and even the two returning players have embraced who we are.
And what are you teaching in terms of your basketball culture right now to your guys?
Well, I think right now we're kind of big picture. I say you try to get the skeleton in early, and then you go back and you start being very intentional every day and filling in with details and filling in the mortar once we have the foundation built. But you have to be foundational in your fundamentals. We spend a lot of time on the things that a lot of people may think are boring, and I said you just can't ever be bored getting better.
Yeah,
you just have to embrace those things. And I heard a lot of coaches, it's true, defense travels, rebounds, wins championships. I think fundamentals on both sides of the ball is what's built you to last. I mean, you just have to be so sound fundamentally, and you have to have that foundation of this is who we are, this is what we do. And we have a real big deal in our program is Samford's not going to beat Samford. We're not going to beat ourselves. That's how we want to play. We want to play in a way that we play the best of our ability, and if the other team's better than us, so be it, but we don't need to help in that cause.
All right, let's go back a few years. We've got that out of the way, but let's talk about Huntsville.
Yeah.
Growing up in Huntsville, you're a Huntsville guy. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, your growing up years. I mean, when did you start playing sports? Who were some people that made an impact on you? What were your formative, the things that in your formative years that made an impact on you?
Yeah, I was blessed beyond belief to grow up in Northwest Huntsville, which is was a very diverse neighborhood, a very diverse community. Went to Johnson High School, and really the feeder program all the way through the elementary school to the middle schools was elite athletes. It was a very blue collar, like I say, high diversity, very close-knit community, and athletics was a big part of that community, and it started when you were young. I literally remember signing up for T-ball at 5 years old at the Northwest Y, and my dad was our coach. My dad coached my brother and a sister, and he coached almost everything we did until we got into middle school, and so he had such an impact on my life. He was a much better player than I was, and taught me so much. And the way I was raised, I think that somebody said, what was it like growing up in that area? Because it was a great time to be from that community. As I said, it basically everybody there was, you're no better than anyone else, and no one else is better than you. Mm-hmm. And so that's the way you were raised, and it didn't matter what race, religion, ethnicity, it didn't matter. Everyone was treated the same, and it was a beautiful thing, and so I'm forever thankful for that. My high school coach, Danny Petty, who's in every Hall of Fame in Alabama and many other places, I played from Coach Petty from the 7th grade through the 12th grade. He was the only coach I ever had until I went to college, and what a blessing that was. He was my middle school coach in the 7th and 8th grade, and then when I went to high school in the 9th grade, he got the varsity job at Johnson High School, and I played for him all 4 years there. So, anything still a lot of things I say and do are things I learned from my high school coach, and he won several state championships, and he's a living legend. He's still alive and still does very active in so many things, but he was so impactful in my life, and all the coaches I had a chance to play for. I think being a coach is a privilege, but it's also a responsibility, and I saw how he lived that out.
Who were some of your heroes growing up, sports heroes? This could be, not just on the basketball court, but the baseball guys, the football guys.
Well, the one team, people ask me, when you live in this area, who do you like in football? I grew up an Alabama fan, and that's what my dad did. I remember listening to we worked on Saturdays a lot. I remember he had the radio on in the backyard, and you're working, and he's listening to Alabama football, and that was such a big part of everybody's life growing up. But as I got older and I started coaching on my own, I realized that the coach at Alabama probably wasn't worried about my team. So the only team I really have been passionate about is the Atlanta Braves. I love baseball. I'm a baseball guy. My son played college baseball, and we love baseball in our family. We love the Braves. And Dale Murphy was my guy growing up. Now, those were lean years in Atlanta, but oh my gosh, did I love Dale Murphy. And I had a chance to meet him one time, and actually somewhere in this office there's a baseball sign by Dale Murphy, and just thought what kind of human being he was, and how he lived his life. And then in basketball, really growing up, I was in the age of Pistol Pete Maravich, the guy that just, that worked 7-8 hours a day, and just play. Don't remember him playing at LSU, but I do remember him playing for the Hawks and the Utah and the New Orleans Jazz, and so those were guys that probably, if I jump out of my childhood, who are the guys that I probably identify with the most.
This morning, we're talking about fundamentals. So I've got a 6-year-old son named Joshua. This morning, he was doing some basketball drills at the house, and he was doing one where he put the ball on the back of his head, and he clapped and tried to catch it behind his back, and he said that this is what Pete Maravich did. So we got to emulate Maravich.
It is on the right track, because those are all still the Maravich drills. We do them in camp, to start camp every day. Yeah. And you talk about somebody who's way ahead of his time, and and obviously really at the end of his life really was living a life very much of purpose and impact, and it was so cool to kind of see his whole journey. And honestly, I was a Celtics guy too. Now I love the Celtics. I love that team with Ainge and Dennis Johnson and Parrish and McHale and Bird was my guy. Yeah. And
did you play any other sports in high school?
I did. I played baseball and had some opportunities to play baseball in college, and had a chance to several places to play both, but that wasn't going to work and be able to get a degree. Yeah. I needed to. If you're going to play college baseball, that's a huge commitment, and so basketball was. Honestly, if the scholarship would have been more in baseball, I probably would have done that. Yeah. But basketball was a more significant scholarship, and that was very helpful to my family.
Did you play short or second?
I played a little bit of everywhere. Okay. Yeah, I did. I played middle infield in high school. I played third base most of the time, but I played a little bit of everywhere. And but even then, you had to decide at about the 9th or 10th grade which sport. You could play everything, but you had to decide what you were going to. Okay, I want to play this in college. Then that's where I spent my summers, was with basketball as opposed to playing travel. But well, there wasn't even travel sports then, but whether it be summer baseball or whatever, I kind of gave that up when I got into high school.
Yeah. What made you want to go into coaching?
Probably my dad, just the impact he had. And, and this is probably pretty shallow. I really don't know what else I would do. I've always been a part of a team. And when you grow up in Huntsville, a lot of people, there's so many engineers there. And I went to college. I was like, well, I'll just be an engineer. Well, after about 2 math classes, I realized this old boy wasn't going to be an engineer.
And this was at Shorter.
Yeah, well, actually, no. And it's kind of a unique story. And a lot of things you learn, your life lessons and things that help you along the way. I went to Fulton University out of high school, and at the time it was actually Alabama Christian College, and now it's Fulton University. And so that was my first semester there, and I realized pretty quick I couldn't be an engineer whether I wanted to or not. But I wanted to coach. I wanted to be a part of a team, and just the further I got down the road, I knew I felt like it's what I was called to do.
Yeah. How'd you end up at Belhaven?
Well, it's a crazy story. I actually went to Faulkner my freshman year. Our coach got fired, and they made a lot of changes. And actually, I learned the bottom line to college basketball. They took our scholarships. And so I ended up going to junior college in Tennessee, played at Columbia State, which is one of the toughest years of my life, but one of the biggest years of growth. It was a great experience for me. And then I went to play at Shorter University in Rome, Georgia, and that's really where things kind of fell into place. I found my faith, I really understood what it started meaning to be a true Christian, and a long way from perfect, but understanding, hey, this is about a personal relationship with Jesus. This is not a checklist of things to do and not do, but had a really great experience there. I had just so many great teammates, had a great coach, and just had a great experience. And I went from there. I was an assistant at UAH, where I grew up, and for 2 years I lived with my parents and saved every dime I had because I was making no money and just tried to make it work. I was assistant there for 2 years, and after my second year, I just turned 25, and I was offered the head coaching job at Belhaven College in Jackson, Mississippi. And so everybody's like, well, how did you get a job like that young? And Belhaven's a great place. It really is, and I had such a great experience there for 3 years, but nobody else wanted the job. That's why they hired me. It was a really, really tough job, and the compensation was not significant, to say the least. And I was the basketball coach, I was the golf coach, I was the janitor for the gym, I was the trainer. I mean, you basically did everything. But boy, did I learn, and what a blessing those 3 years were for me.